He had everything money could buy: mansions, cars, travel, and even the forced respect of those around him. But what no one imagined was that his life would be turned upside down by the most unlikely of circumstances: a simple maid. The woman he publicly despised, mercilessly humiliated, and treated as if invisible, would become the key to his destiny. What happened in that luxurious home is something few would believe if they hadn't seen it. A turn of events so unexpected, it left everyone in shock. After all, how could someone who seemed so small and unimportant carry within them the power to save the life of a man who thought himself untouchable? Today you'll hear the story that exposes the most uncomfortable truth. Pride can bring someone to rock bottom, but it's always humility that has the strength to lift them up. The millionaire who mocked his own salvation could never have imagined the price he would have to pay. And what happened next you won't believe until you hear it all. Before continuing, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, because every day we bring you stories that touch your mind and your heart. And don't forget to activate the bell, because the next video could be the story you needed to hear. The millionaire's mansion resembled a modern palace. Massive iron gates slowly opened, revealing immaculate gardens, where every flower was tended by expert gardeners. The sound of the central fountain mingled with the deep rumble of the sports cars parked in the garage. Inside, the hallways were wide, covered in rugs imported from Persia, and decorated with original works of art, paintings most only knew from history books. With every step, it became clear: this place was not meant to welcome but to impress. He walked around the house like a king in his castle, always wearing tailored designer clothes, watches that sparkled like small jewels, and an expensive cigar between his fingers. His gaze wasn't that of an observer, but of a judge. To him, everyone around him was on a lower level, destined to serve or admire him. Invitations to his parties were fought over as if they were tickets to another world, and those who were accepted knew they had to flatter, laugh at the lame jokes, and pretend they were in the presence of a near-divine man. Yet the grandeur hid something dark. The servants walked in absolute silence, as if even the sound of their footsteps could disturb him. He couldn't remember names. He treated them like numbers. The mansion was beautiful on the outside, but cold on the inside, like a museum inhabited by a single solitary resident. At every lavish dinner, the table was filled with guests but devoid of true affection. And without realizing it, the millionaire was carving out his own gilded prison, a place where wealth overflowed, but humanity seemed to have evaporated. That morning, the mansion's imposing gate opened not to welcome guests dressed in formal attire, but to let in a simple woman, with timid steps and a serene gaze. Her worn clothes contrasted with the exaggerated shine of the marble entrance. It was as if every detail screamed that she didn't belong in that world of luxury. Yet there she was, with the courage of someone who knew she needed the job. The silence of the other employees upon observing her arrival spoke volumes. They knew it wouldn't be easy to face their boss's temperament. The new waitress brought with her more than just a suitcase filled with a few clothes. She carried stories of struggle, the invisible marks of someone who learned to survive on little and to smile even when their hearts ached. Her polite, almost naive demeanor drew attention, but at the same time, it aroused the contempt of the most arrogant. To the millionaire, her presence was just another insignificant detail, something that would go unnoticed among so many faces that came and went. Little did he know that this woman would completely change the course of his life. There was, however, something different about her, a sparkle in her eyes that wouldn't dim even in the face of contempt. It was as if her simplicity were, in fact, an invisible armor against that cold, suffocating environment. While most were intimidated by the harsh rules and judgmental stares, she simply took a deep breath and moved on. She seemed to understand that somehow there was a greater purpose to her being there, and that purpose would be revealed in the days to come. The first big party after the new maid's arrival was the stage for the inevitable. The hall was lit by crystal chandeliers, guests smiled with champagne flutes in hand, and ambient music filled the spaces. Amidst this luxurious spectacle, the simple maid circulated discreetly, collecting glasses and arranging plates. Everything was going well until a small accident occurred. A tray slipped from his hands and a glass shattered on the floor, breaking the elegant silence like a sudden thunderclap. The millionaire, who loved being the center of attention, seized the moment to demonstrate his authority. He rose from his armchair, his deep voice echoing throughout the room, and made a point of humiliating the maid in front of everyone. "You don't even know how to hold a glass? Maybe your whole life is nothing but a mistake," he said, drawing mocking laughter from some of the guests. Her face flushed with embarrassment, but her eyes remained steady as if refusing to be crushed by his words. For many there, it was just another common scene at parties where power and vanity spoke louder than respect. But for the maid, that moment was a silent wound she would never forget. And for the millionaire, it was just the beginning of a series of humiliations he would still find amusing, never imagining that each poisonous word was, little by little, paving the way for a turnaround that would change everything. The following days were a true test of endurance for the maid. The millionaire seemed to find pleasure in making her a constant target of his cruel comments. If she took a few seconds too long to pour the coffee, he mocked her snail's pace. If she spilled a drop of wine, she was called useless in front of everyone. Nothing escaped the sharp eye of his boss, who used every mistake as ammunition to feed his own ego. At business meetings, when the young woman appeared only to serve water, he took the opportunity to tell jokes about his humble origins, drawing forced laughter from his companions. It was as if he needed to remind everyone that there were two worlds: the world of the victors, where he reigned supreme, and the world of the invisible, where she was doomed to remain. With each word, shame added to the weight of carrying out that role amidst so much contempt. But there was something the millionaire didn't realize. Each humiliation, instead of dulling the maid's shine, fueled a silent strength within her. She didn't react with outbursts of anger, but with a firm, almost defiant silence. She observed, absorbed, and retained every detail, as if she understood that life is full of unexpected twists and turns. And little did he know the very platform he now used to demean her would be the very one where one day she would need to beg for his help. Behind her simple apron and restrained smile, the waitress carried a secret no one in that mansion could have imagined. She wasn't just a woman seeking sustenance. There was a hidden story in her past, stitched together by pain, loss, and choices that silently shaped her. While others saw her as a shadowy figure, she carried within her experiences that gave her a deeper insight into life. It was as if she knew more than she let on. There were times when, alone in the kitchen or garden, she would gaze at the horizon with a distant gaze, as if remembering scars that time could not erase. This enigmatic air intrigued some employees, but no one dared ask. The millionaire, blinded by his own arrogance, never realized that this seemingly ordinary woman carried within her a knowledge and strength that transcended appearance. She was like a closed book, only revealing its pages at the right moment. This secret was also the reason she didn't crumble in the face of humiliation. Unlike the others, she didn't let the mansion's heavy atmosphere contaminate her. There was a silent certainty that her presence there wasn't just a coincidence, but part of something greater, an invisible purpose, waiting for the exact moment to reveal itself. And that moment was approaching, even though no one, not even she, knew how drastic the turnaround would be. It was on a seemingly ordinary night that the unthinkable happened. The millionaire, accustomed to being the center of attention, began to feel a strange weakness while addressing his guests. First, a slight tremor in his hands, then difficulty breathing. The hall, which until then had echoed with laughter and music, fell into an eerie silence. Within seconds, the man who had thought himself untouchable was on the floor, pale, panting, his eyes wide with fear. The scene was chaotic. Guests looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Some backed away, others just watched. His business friends, who until minutes before had been fawning over his every word, now discreetly backed away, more concerned with their own image than with their host's life. The millionaire tried to speak, but his voice was shaky and barely audible. For the first time, no amount of wealth, power, or influence could protect him from what was to come. If this story has already captivated you, just imagine what's to come. So leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of these impactful stories. The best is yet to come. As his body was consumed by vulnerability, a new reality took shape. The man who dominated everyone around him now depended on something he'd never cultivated: care, empathy, humanity. The fall wasn't just physical, but symbolic. His mask of power had shattered before everyone's eyes, and fate, with its cruel irony, began to set the stage to reveal who would truly stand by his side when everything fell apart. In the days following the collapse, the millionaire experienced a silence he had never experienced before. The mansion, once bustling with constant visitors, now seemed a marble desert. Those who swore loyalty vanished without a trace. Business, friends disappeared, partners avoided him, and even close family found excuses not to get involved. The phone, which had been ringing non-stop with invitations and flattery, now remained silent. When someone appeared, it was only to check on contracts, assets, or future inheritances. There was no real concern, just curiosity and interest. The man who had once been surrounded by crowds discovered the burden of being alone. His own family seemed to treat him like an inconvenient burden, someone who had once been a source of pride and had now become an uncomfortable memory. The pride he carried had become a throbbing wound, impossible to hide. The irony was cruel. The millionaire, who used his fortune to attract people, now realized that none of it had built real bonds. With every blank look he received, every flimsy excuse, he felt a piece of himself crumble. He was trapped in a huge house, surrounded by luxury, but with no one willing to truly lend a hand. And right in the midst of this abandonment, an unexpected figure stood firm, observing everything in silence. As everyone walked away, the humble maid remained there, discreet but attentive. She could have simply walked away like so many others. After all, she had every reason to turn her back. However, something inside her spoke louder. Instead of harboring resentment for the humiliation she had suffered, she saw in this fallen man an opportunity to demonstrate what money could not buy: compassion. Her silence, which had previously seemed like submission, now revealed itself as strength. She started taking care of small details. She prepared his light meals, adjusted his pillow so he could rest better, and when the doctors left, she was the one who kept watch. Each simple gesture broke the ice in that cold house, as if bringing life back to the silent hallways. The millionaire, accustomed to giving orders and being served, now experienced the discomfort of receiving without being able to reciprocate. For the first time, he felt the weight of depending on someone's kindness. What was most impressive was her serenity. There were no accusations, no demands, just a firm, caring, almost maternal attitude. And this confused the millionaire. How could someone he had despised so much offer help just when he was at rock bottom? It was as if the world was teaching him a living lesson, one that not all the gold in the vault could erase. But this was only the first part of the revelation that was about to come. The most serious crisis occurred one silent morning. The millionaire, overcome by a sudden shortness of breath, nearly succumbed to despair. The mansion's corridors echoed with the sound of his labored breathing, and there was no one around. No friends, no relatives, only the maid. She was the one who ran, administered first aid, called 911, and remained calm enough to prevent the tragedy from becoming permanent. That night, she wasn't just an employee. She was literally the thread that held his life together. In the hospital, after the critical moments, the millionaire realized something he had never bothered to notice before. The woman who now watched over him, who had risked everything to save him, was no ordinary stranger. Between whispered conversations and medical documents, one detail emerged. She had advanced nursing knowledge, the result of years of working in public hospitals before becoming a housekeeper. The revelation came as a bombshell, revealing that behind that humble exterior lay someone far more prepared and resilient than he ever imagined. But it didn't stop there. Her secret went beyond her forgotten profession. There was an invisible connection, a bond the millionaire had never imagined. Amidst the painful memories of his youth, Names and stories began to fit together. This woman, whom he had so despised, carried a connection to his past that would forever change the way he viewed her. And this thread of truth, about to be revealed, would be the deepest blow to his arrogance. The millionaire, who had previously walked with a puffed-out chest and sharp words, now looked at himself in the mirror with a different look. The wrinkles, which had previously seemed marks of experience, revealed the arrogance of years ill-spent. He recalled every humiliation heaped on the maid and felt a crushing weight. It wasn't just ingratitude, it was cruelty. His conscience began to prick his pride, showing him that all the gold he possessed couldn't buy genuine respect. The days in the hospital became a silent school. Every time the maid brought him a glass of water, made his bed, or simply stood silently beside him, the millionaire realized the difference between power and greatness. He had always had power, but not greatness. It was then that for the first time in decades he uttered words he never thought he would say. Thank you. 2 small syllables, but they opened deep cracks in the wall of arrogance he had built himself. The transformation didn't happen all at once, but it was visible. His tone softened. His once hard eyes now wavered with emotion. He began to notice people, to note their names, their stories. The mansion, once a stage for ostentation, began to be used for smaller, more human gatherings. The man who once prided himself on being feared now learned the value of being respected, and above all, loved. And the outcome of this journey still held one final surprise. Months later, the mansion was no longer the same. The grand parties gave way to discreet gatherings, filled with simple laughter and true stories. The millionaire, once surrounded by sycophants, now welcomed people to his table who truly cared, and at the center of these changes was her, the maid who had been scorned and, ironically, had become the reason for his new life. He didn't speak of her as an employee, but as someone essential to his journey of redemption. The most unexpected gesture came one sunny afternoon, when he gathered all the servants in the main hall. With a choked voice, he declared before everyone that he owed his life to the one he had humiliated most. He publicly apologized, a gesture that shocked even the most skeptical. It gave him not just symbolic recognition, but a position of trust and respect within the house, as if he finally understood that dignity cannot be bought but earned. And so, the man who had previously lived imprisoned by his own pride began to experience the freedom of being truly human. His fortune was still there, but it was no longer his greatest source of pride. True wealth now lay in the grateful gaze he cast upon that simple woman, who transformed her pain into strength and her arrogance into humility. Their story was not just about physical rescue, but about salvation of the soul, and to those observing from the outside it was clear. In that house, the one who truly wielded power was never the millionaire. And now I ask you, how many times have you treated someone as if they were invisible, without realizing how important that person could be in your life? Could it be that the very person you value least will one day be able to hold your hand when everyone else turns their backs? This story isn't just about an arrogant millionaire and a humble maid. It's a mirror, perhaps closer to you than you realize. Think about it. Who are you silently humiliating today, even without realizing it? An employee, a neighbor, a family member? What if tomorrow it's that person who has the power to change your destiny? Life loves to surprise us, and when we least expect it, seemingly unshakable pride crumbles in the face of a simple act of kindness. So, if this story touched you, use it as an invitation to reevaluate your actions. Treat even those who seem small in the eyes of the world with respect, because one day they may be the ones who will hold your life in their hands. And if you want to continue hearing stories that provoke, transform, and make you think, subscribe to the channel now. Turn on notifications, and come with me on this journey of lessons that life insists on teaching us. So, if this story has touched you, consider it an invitation to reevaluate your actions. Treat even those who seem small in the eyes of the world with respect, because one day it may be that very person who holds your life in their hands. Now tell me, have you ever experienced something similar? Have you ever been humiliated and then proven your worth? Or realized you misjudged someone? Write in the comments, because I'd love to hear your opinion. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel now, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Because stories like this aren't just entertainment, they're life lessons that can transform the way we see the world.